Now, this is interesting. He goes through what he calls the 5 kinds of guard, and I looked at this. Guard is basically the way you kind of position yourself. And he talks about the different types of guard that there are, the first technique, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. These are the different techniques, and they're all different positions that you hold the sword and where you prepare for your attack. And when he gets to the philosophical part of it, though, on the teaching of having a position without a position. Having a position without a position, or a guard without a guard, means that the longsword is not supposed to be kept in a fixed position. Nevertheless, since there are 5 ways of placing the sword, the guard positions must follow along. Where you hold your sword depends on your relationship to the opponent, depends on the place, and must conform to the situation. Wherever you hold it, the idea is to hold it so that it will be easy to kill the opponent. Sometimes the upper guard position is lowered a bit so that it becomes the middle position, while the middle guard position may be elevated a bit, depending on the advantage thereof, so that it becomes the upper position. At times, the lower guard position is also raised a bit to become the middle position. The two-sided guard positions may be moved somewhat toward the center, depending on where you are standing vis-a-vis your opponent, resulting in either the middle or the lower guard position. In this way, the principle is to have a guard position without a position. First of all, when you take up the sword, in any case, the idea is to kill the opponent. Even though you may catch, hit, or block an opponent's slashing sword, or tie it up, or obstruct it, all of these moves are opportunities for cutting down the opponent. So he's not trapped in this rigid mindset that this is what I have to do. He's open-minded, he's flexible. Now here we go. This must be understood. If you think of catching, think of hitting, think of blocking, think of tying up, or think of obstructing, you will thereby become unable to make the kill. It is crucial to think of everything as an opportunity to kill. This should be given careful consideration. So he's saying if you're thinking defensively, that's what you're thinking about. When you actually need to be thinking about being offensive. Even when you're defending, you need to be thinking about being offensive. Back to the book. In large-scale military science, the arraying of troops is also a matter of positioning. Every instance thereof is an opportunity to win in war. Fixation is bad. This should be worked out thoroughly. Striking down an opponent in a single beat. Among the rhythms used to strike an opponent, there is what is called a single beat. Finding a position where you can reach the opponent, realizing when the opponent has not yet determined what to do, you strike directly as fast as possible without moving your body or fixing your attention. The stroke with which you strike an opponent before he has thought of whether to pull back, parry, or strike is called a single beat. So that's, you can see that the opponent's not quite prepared. They're kind of indecisive. You can see it. Boom. Be decisive. Make something happen. Go for the kill. The rhythm of the second spring. The rhythm of the second spring is when you're about to strike and the opponent quickly pulls back or parries. You feint a blow and then strike the opponent as he relaxes after tensing. This is the stroke of the second spring. So again, we see these all the time in jiu-jitsu. We see it in everything. The sticky body means getting inside and sticking fast to an opponent. When you get inside the opponent's defenses, you stick tight with your head, body, and legs. The average person gets his head and legs in quickly, but the body shrinks back. Sticking to an opponent means that you stick so close that there are no gaps between your bodies. This should be investigated carefully. And what's really interesting about this, and of course these are both two different languages being translated, but when the Chechens fought the Russians in Chechnya, one of the things that the Chechens did was they called it this sticky. They stuck to the Russians. So the Russians had air support, the Russians had artillery, and the only way to negate that or mitigate it for the Chechens was to get so close to the Russians that they couldn't use their own superior air power. Yeah. And it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. I mean, obviously a grappler is going to get close so that they can avoid the strikes of a striker.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. A stand against many opponents, discerning the order in which opponents attack, deal with those who press forward first. Keeping an eye on the whole picture, determining the stands from which opponents launch their attack, swinging both swords at the same time without mutual interference. It is wrong to wait. Prioritize and execute. You got multiple people coming after you, or you're being attacked on multiple fronts. You need to prioritize and execute. Advantage in dueling means understanding how to win using the longsword according to the laws of martial arts. This cannot be written down in detail. One must realize how to win by practice. Study carefully. So again, you're not going to get it just by reading. You're not going to get it just by listening. You got to do it. You got to practice it. Mm-hmm. Thinking unhurriedly, understanding that it is the duty of warriors to practice this science, determine that today you will overcome yourself of the day before. Tomorrow you will win over those of lesser skill, and later you will win over those of greater skill. Practice. This is something that requires thorough examination, with 1,000 days of practice for training and 10,000 days of practice for refinement. Get it on.